I've had the opportunity of working in a lot of places. I actually just recently moved from Miami, so I live in LA. I couldn't trade in cold or warm for cold, so I'm still in, thank God, warm climate. But the thing is, I know this community from certain places, but I don't necessarily know this campus, right? Because every campus, every community, every generation is different. And I'm not here to stand on the stage and tell you how to feel about HIV. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your own life. I'm here so that we as a community can acknowledge what is a crisis, right? And there's ways that we can acknowledge that crisis. So what I'm going to ask is a couple things. We're going to do a couple exercises. And could I get the projector light off? Is that possible? That's like killing me. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple things. So if you guys could participate, that's what's going to make this event impactful, right? That's what's going to make a difference. The other thing is that when talking about HIV, you're talking about adult topics, right? And the fact of the matter is we are all adults in this room. So if someone chooses to share a moment or a story or a question, don't let that moment become a Twitter feed, right? Or a Facebook post or gossip, right? Because then we really are part of the problem instead of part of the solution. So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but I'm asking for a silent commitment that we're all adults and that we treat this conversation accordingly. Yeah? Yes. Perfect. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions. I want you to participate. Don't be scared. I know this topic is a little scary. So we're going to start from the very beginning. How many of you were born after 1981? By raising your hands. And if you weren't, you can still raise your hands. We won't tell. Okay? Perfect. So the majority of the room was born after 1981. HIV was discovered in 1981. So that means that there's not been a day on this planet that you have not walked, you have not breathed, that this disease has not been present, right? That it's not been an issue in our lives. How many of you have met someone your own age living with HIV? Actually, a good amount. Perfect. Thank you. So last year in the US, half the epidemic was under the age of 25, right? On top of that, women are estimated to outpass men on HIV infections. So if you came to this event having a preconceived notion or stereotype about a certain community, right? It's easy to say, based on statistics, especially here in South Florida, those are not accurate, okay? The fact of the matter is young people, minority populations, and women are seeing explosive rates when it comes to HIV infection. And that's a startling, startling statistic. Okay, so here's the other part. We all know we have a word we associate with HIV, right? So I want you just to yell out. You can offend me. And if you do offend me, I get your credit card for the car later, right? And I can do some serious damage. But in all honesty, you really can't offend me. So I want you to yell out, and please be honest, because this is how this has to work. What are the first words when you think about HIV?
AIDS.
Oh, you guys are good. Yesterday I had to like get people to yell out. This is good. Okay, so I heard AIDS. I heard, what were some of the other words?
Sex.
Sex. Thank you.
Drugs.
Drugs. Thank you. Other words?
Slut.
Slut. Thank you. Prostitution. Thank you. Other words?
Death.
Death. I heard a word over here. What was it?
Death.
Death. Right? Okay. You also have dirty, right? Gay, Africa, right? Can we assume those are all words that you would use, or maybe someone you know would use to talk about HIV? So I ask you, how many of you would be inspired to go tomorrow or maybe today and learn about a disease that has words that have those types of meanings, right? Or those types of connotations. We don't hear people talk about faith or hope or living or loving, right? We as a generation have lost any form of motivation of knowing our own status because the words that we associate with this disease are painful, right? They're hurtful. They are definitely not motivating. So far we have a disease that has been present in our entire life. We have a disease where many of us have never met someone living with this disease, but yet we are the fastest growing epidemic or group within the epidemic. And we have a disease which words are painful to say the least. So I need you guys to stand, please. Okay. I did this at a community. We've done this a few times and we've had some issues, but you, thank God, look like a smart group. So I'm going to explain this and hopefully this all makes sense. So I mean, I lived in Miami, so I know there's McDonald's here, obviously, right? So you guys pick, what's like a nicer restaurant, like fancy, candlelight, something out this direction?
Olive Garden.
Oh, gross. Okay, we'll do Olive Garden. But that'll be our fancy restaurant. We'll go with Olive Garden. So, I'm going to set up this situation a little bit. I want you to kind of close your eyes and participate. I want you to think that you've met someone. And don't get dramatic. Everyone always gets really dramatic during this exercise. You're not about to make babies. You're not about to get married. Okay? Don't get that crazy with me. What we're going to do here is I want you to think about the first date. You're in college. I get you're in college. So maybe you started at McDonald's on the value meal. Right? Because you don't necessarily want to spend major cash at that point. So you're just taking it easy. So you've started at McDonald's, and now you're at Olive Garden. Okay, and we're going to call that like 8 dates later. It took a while to get there, but you're getting it, right? You're dropping for the bread and the free salad and all that good stuff. Okay, so I want you to think about your first date at McDonald's to your 8th date at Olive Garden. You're not necessarily thinking about husband or wife or kids, but you're starting to have a serious connection, right? You're starting to have thoughts and some feelings. I want you to think about if you started on date 1 and you've gone to date 8, the topics you two have talked about, right? So if I said family and you've talked about family, I want you to continue standing. If you haven't talked about family, you would sit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys are smart. You look smart and you are smart, even better. Okay, so let's just start with the most obvious. So you have family, okay? You have friends, okay? Hobbies or extracurricular activities, school aspirations. I love it when I get to this point and all the guys sit, and then all the girls look at the guys like, are you kidding me? And I think, ooh, they're in big trouble. I just got them grounded. Okay, so good, we're all standing, right? So we have friends, family, social activities, maybe aspirations for a family, lightly, right? HIV status. So for those who are still standing, thank you. Go ahead and sit. I want to make something really clear. I didn't come here to make anyone feel guilty. The goal of Does HIV Look Like Me is to inspire you to stand. Right? It is a really difficult conversation to have, whether you're in lust or love, but the goal of me being here is to inspire you to stand. At one point in my life, I didn't stand. Right? I didn't stand, and I should have stayed. And I didn't have anyone that walked through these exercises with me. There's no shame in not standing, but the point of coming to this program today is to be inspired to have a difficult conversation. Right? So the blueprint is a little daunting. I didn't come here and I didn't tell you how to feel about it. We as a group acknowledge that it's a young disease. We're missing the personal connections. The words associated with this disease are painful, right? And we all, and a lot of us acknowledge it is a very difficult conversation to stand up for with someone we may be falling for. So I think it's safe to say we have a crisis on our hands, and I'm glad you guys are all here. So that is the blueprint. I'm going to do a little bit of a 101. I forgot to start the program. I actually, on a very personal note, my grandmother died 2 days ago, and I wanted to dedicate tonight to her. I'm sure she's standing up here being as crazy as she ever is, but she's actually a major person in my life who designed who I am today. So tonight's program is for her, but I wanted to apologize because I just learned about the death about 2 days ago. So I may have to use a couple quick notes just because my brain is a little split between a lot of different places. But I'm going to do a very brief 101 because there's obviously a lot you can cover here, and I'm going to keep it simple. And then if you have more questions, I'll be here afterwards. If you know the answers, please yell it out. But what are the ways that you can contract HIV? Sex, right?
Meals.
Sex activity.
Drugs.
Perfect. Drugs, which include IV drug use.
Blood transfusion.
Blood transfusion, correct?
Breast milk.
Breast milk. So mother to child. So there is treatment for a woman who is pregnant to stop the transmission of HIV from the mother to the child. But, like this program will emphasize on, you have to know in order to seek that treatment. Right? If you don't know you're a woman who's living with HIV with a baby, you're not necessarily going to seek that prenatal care. In Canada, They have had that drug readily available to women, and they have not had a baby born with HIV in over 5 years. So it is a treatment that works, but women have to know. Okay? So what are the ways that you do not get HIV?
Kissing.
Kissing.
Shaking
We'll talk about
hands.
shaking hands.
Sharing utensils.
What was the other one?
Touching.
Touching, hugging, sharing a bathroom seat, toilet, right? Sharing a glass of water. I mean, it's 2012. I wish we didn't have to go through these facts, but we still do, right? And I always say, you don't get HIV from giving a hug, right? You have no idea how much that means to someone struggling with this, so don't ever be afraid to get that hug. The other side is that a lot of young people are confused on the kissing issue, right? There was a study done by a university that said that you basically had to drink 8 gallons of saliva in order to be infected with HIV. So if you're drinking 8 gallons, you're just nasty. And we have another program after this, but I'm not sure what it's called for you. But we shouldn't be drinking 8 gallons of spit ever, right? So I think we can agree that that is not a means of transmission. The only thing is if you just came from the dental office and you had a root canal, right? And you're bleeding, I don't know who would make out after a root canal, like it's painful, right? So the thing is, like, be conscious, be smart. If you just had a dental procedure and you have blood present in your mouth, or you have gauze keeping something from bleeding, you just shouldn't be making out or shouldn't be making out with someone. I mean, it's just kind of common knowledge. So that's how you do not get HIV. So what are the ways that you prevent HIV?
Contraception.
Thank you. Abstinence is the only 100% any of contraception or safer sex, right? So how many ladies here and gentlemen know that there's female condoms? Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. Okay, here's the other question. I'm going to ask a specific to the ladies. How many ladies have opened a female condom? Once again, impressive. Okay, so here's the thing. For the ladies who have not, this is my own stance. It's 2012. The days of expecting a man to carry a condom and be accountable for safe sex are no longer valid, right? Because a woman can put a condom in her purse and she can be educated for her part of that relationship. But for those who have not opened a female condom, it's a lot of latex, right? I had to do a demo in a high school in Brooklyn, and there was nothing worse than being confused with a female condom in front of like 500 high school students, right? Like that was brutal. So what I'm saying is if you haven't opened it, open it, understand it. It isn't good just to know that it's there, it's good to know how to use it, right? With anything when it comes to sex. So what are the ways that you know if you're HIV positive?
Blood test.
Testing, right? Testing. I mean, it's easy. The name of this program is Does HIV Look Like Me? Because today it's hard. You know, you don't necessarily know someone has HIV. There was a report put out this week by the CDC that they estimate that half of young people living with HIV do not know they are in fact living with it. This year, this report was the highest number it's ever been in the epidemic of young people who are walking around with it and are not only not seeking treatment, right, but not necessarily disclosing because they don't know. So it's a 20-minute test. It looks like a little stick. You wipe it on the top, then you wipe it on the bottom of your mouth. They place it into a vial of liquid, and it looks for HIV antibodies. If that comes up positive, then you would have a confirmatory test, which is a blood test to confirm that indeed you are living with HIV. And I just challenge you guys, how many things in your life take 20 minutes to save a life? Right? Not many. So it's really, really important, and there's testing today, so we'll talk more about that later. Last but not least, is there a cure?